With the $5 meal deal at McDonald's, you pick a McDouble or a McChicken, then get a small fry, a small drink, and a 4-piece McNuggets. That's a lot of McDonald's for not a lot of money.
Price and participation may vary. For a limited time only.
On today's episode of Cheating When Love Lies.
Let's call this episode the Halloween edition because I am spooked by my guest's husband's very odd behavior, like getting fake restaurant receipts to prove he was dining somewhere when actually he wasn't. My guest caught her husband in countless lies by tracking his car.
His car was in front of a house in a neighborhood that I don't know why he was there.
She even found a bag in her husband's closet containing the most shocking, damning evidence of cheating one could possibly find. And yet, she refuses to confront him and let him know that she's on to his cheating ways. Why does she do this? And what was in that bag? You'll never guess. So join me now for this spooky Hollywood edition of Cheating When Love Lies to find out. I'd like to start with your relationship with your husband in 2014. He was laid off from a rather significant job. How did that impact your marriage?
It impacted it dramatically. He was fairly high up in the corporation and thank goodness had never lost a job before. But there was a huge layoff and they took from the top down. So because of the income, he was one of the first to go. And it sent him into a tailspin. He became very depressed, very anxious, to the point of, I shared earlier with you, where he would get up in the morning and be staring at a blank computer screen. And when I came home from work at night, he was still staring at a blank computer screen.
It got so difficult that at one point you decided to move to another neighborhood to sort of be more economical in your decisions.
The community was very, very small. Everyone knew everyone. It was a very interesting little community, yeah.
And was he still staring at the screen in that little community? Was it the same circumstance, just in a new place?
Yes. He was becoming more advanced with his freelance work, but that was few and far between. And he was just having a lot of difficulty coping. I would ask him to help out with chores, and he would not do that. He told me he wasn't a housewife. I would get home from work and he would not be home, and I would find out that he'd been at the bar all afternoon with his friends instead of doing the few things that I'd asked him to do. I don't ask for help often, but there were sometimes I just throw the clothes in the dryer. Is it that big of a deal?
Did he agree to go to therapy to help either his depression vis-a-vis work or your marriage?
Not at the time, no. He said that with our finances the way they were, that would not be a good use of our income. Later in the marriage, a few years later in the marriage, he did agree to go to counseling, but at that time, that was a hard no.
At one point, he found something that you had stated, which was, I don't want to look back 30 years from now and wonder if I've settled. How did he find it?
Someone had given me a book, The Art of Not Giving a F***, and I went through and was just highlighting different things that spoke to me. And that was one of those comments. And when I went to work one day, he picked up the book and started flipping through it and had seen that I had highlighted that. And he texted me a picture of the page and said, I will not be here when you get back. I've gone for a drive. He did return that night, very upset with me that I would have ever thought that I settled. And I had to explain to him that just was a passage that spoke to me, because I don't think any woman or man, for that matter, should ever settle in life over anything, not just marriage.
Was there a part of you that identified with that quote? You did highlight it after all.
Absolutely. I often wondered, is there someone else out there that would, when I came home from work, would want to, come to the door like a puppy, shaking their tail and hug me. And I'm so glad you're home, because that was never really our relationship for either one of us.
When we had spoken earlier, you in fact said that you yourself didn't feel very sexual or very much engaged intimately with your husband. And you in fact had one incident where, after not really getting along, you came home and you laid on top of him. And what happened?
I came home from work and he was laying on the couch, and I just thought I'd like to give him some attention. I think it's about time I give him some attention. So he was laying on the couch, fully clothed, and I just went and laid on top of him and gave him a hug, and he responded, "Are you kidding me?"
Hmm.
So I moved and went up and changed my clothes, and we continued on with our night.
And how did that make you feel when he said that?
At the time, rejected.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back, I probably deserved that. But at the time, very rejected.
You deserved that. What do you mean by that?
I had ignored his needs for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when all of a sudden someone, comes to you and makes this, what I consider a grandiose gesture, I can understand why he would be like, "Are you kidding me? Why now? What's this all about?"
Now things got better for him financially. He got
Mhm.
into a groove. I think he was doing something freelance and then eventually was hired. Now you get a Tesla and everything changes. Explain to us why getting this Tesla was so pivotal in your relationship.
I did not know that on a Tesla, your phone was your key. And so we downloaded the app for our phones, and I was showing one of my friends, and I'm like, "Check this out. This is so cool. You can tell what the air conditioning is on right now, and you can tell blah, 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 blah. And you can tell where the car is. So if you're in the parking lot and you've parked your car in the wrong spot, and your favorite spot wasn't there, you can hit this button and it tells you where your car is. And it's just so cool." And she goes, "Well, where's the car?" So I hit the button, and my car was in the parking lot where I worked. His car was in front of a house in a neighborhood that I don't know why he was there. And he was in the car because it tells you when the doors open, when the doors close. It's a really
Mhm.
naughty little app.
Yes, very
It's not good.
sophisticated. Yes.
Um, and he was in his car, but idling in front of this person's house for 5, 10 minutes, and then drove down the street and back down the street again towards the house, and then left the neighborhood.
Never got out of the car.
Never got out of the car.
Okay. He
So I
gets
took a
home.
screenshot.
Okay.
I didn't call my friend. I took a screenshot that time.
Okay. Okay. Screenshot. You took a screenshot of him in front of the house and then
Yes.
driving around and then going back to the house.
Just of him sitting in front of the house. Just
Okay.
because something in me is like, why is he in that neighborhood? There's nothing in that neighborhood.
So it wasn't a neighborhood where you do shopping or you get your nails done or you have friends, nothing.
No, no. It's a cul-de-sac surrounded by homes.
Okay.
And we do not know I do not know anybody in that neighborhood.
So he gets home and you pull up your screenshot and you say, "Honey, what were you doing in front of this home?"
That would have been the smart thing to do. But once again, let me remind you, I do
That
not endorse
rug and you got
staying
to
that
start
on.
sweeping.
Right. So I sat on it
You sat on it. Why did you do
for a
that?
year. For a year.
For a year you sat on it.
For a year, I sat on it.
Why?
I, I, I don't like conflict. I don't like conflict. I grew up in a house where when people started yelling, people started getting hurt physically. And again, I want to reiterate, he is not a physically violent man. But just, therapy has taught me that that's something I still haven't probably processed and dealt with appropriately. So I just sat on it.
It's not the first time on Cheating When Love Lies I've heard that, ladies sit on the information for a very long time. How do you do it? When you get in bed with him, when you're sitting across the dinner table, how do you feel withholding that information? Do you feel empowered, entitled, nervous? What's that like?
Um, it makes me question everything.
Hmm.
Because part of me thinks, okay, I could address this and I could be wrong. And then all of this is my fault because I was snooping on the phone. And it would come back to me. It was always, no matter what we fought about, it
Mm.
always came back to me.
Meaning it always
Um,
became your fault.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So if I had said, hey, I saw your car, blah, blah, he would have said, well, what were you
Why
doing
you're snooping.
following me around town? Yeah. So there would have been that. And the other part is, what if I confront him and I'm right? Then I have to do
Yes.
something.
Yes, Bianca, I tell people that often. I had this conversation just this past weekend with a friend. I said, you know, the issue with finding out is then people feel like they have to do something.
Right.
Now that I have the information, I have to do something. I can't be complacent or in the state that I was before,
Right.
which isn't necessarily true. I think that's just the perception. Okay, so you continue to survey on
It became an obsession. It became an absolute obsession.
tell us about that. Give us an example of what it was like to
Um,
be obsessed with the
he
Tesla.
he said he was going to Home Depot one day,
Mhm.
and of course he walked out the door and I hit the app, and lo and behold, he was back at that same house again.
Mm.
And I thought, this is odd. So I took another screenshot. And as he was leaving the neighborhood, he texted me and said, I'm stopping at Starbucks. Do you want something to drink? And I said, no, that's okay. I'm good. So I watched the car drive across town to the Starbucks by the Home Depot, not the Starbucks by our house. And he got something to drink and came home. Did not have a bag from Home Depot. And I said, oh, did you get what you needed? And he said, no, they didn't have what I needed. They didn't have the specific whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, you just went straight there? And he said, oh, no, 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 no. I went to this neighborhood over where he was.
Right.
I was looking for a bike trail because I need a new bike trail to go on. So I was looking for that.
Do you think he knew that you may have been tracking him and therefore he came up with the whole bike lane story?
I questioned that,
Mm-hmm.
but I tested it because while
Oh,
I was
wow.
in the car with him at one point, I clicked on the app on my phone to see if something came up on his screen on the car, and it does not. So I think he was just feeling guilty
Okay.
and maybe had gotten not caught at not going to Home Depot, but damn, I don't have a bag. Now I have to come up with a story.
Right. Well, they say that one way of detecting the lie is when the person voluntarily gives information that's really not really relevant, but
Yep.
they want to come up with some sort of story.
Every time I had a chance, I was clicking that app to see where he was because I thought if I'm catching just a few things, because I would catch him at really random parking lots and never getting out of the vehicle, but sometimes the passenger door would open and close, but he would never get out of the vehicle. So I'm like, if I'm witnessing this just every now and then when I can click on the app, what am I missing?
Can you be more specific about the car going to neighborhoods and a door opening? Tell us.
Yes. I was watching the app one day and he was in a church parking lot. I watched the passenger door open and close, and then he drove off. So someone had gotten in and out of that car before I was watching. And then when I saw it, that person was obviously leaving. He did not walk them to their car. He did not wait for them to get back to their car because he was off in a flash. And Jillian, I really thought he's dealing drugs. There's got to be
Okay.
something nefarious here. It can't be an affair by any means because he's not in and out of his car. He's not, going into these homes that I'm aware of. The man's dealing drugs. That's it. I've solved the case.
Okay, that's a reasonable assumption. Yeah, unfortunate but reasonable. Okay.
Right.
At one point you discover the car in a trailer park.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It was one of my moments of just walking over and clicking the app. And I saw his the car was parked in this trailer park, and it was about 2 miles from my work.
Okay.
And I thought that's strange. So again, I'm not in a profession where I can just leave on the fly. Found a way that I could leave and take an early lunch. And I drove past the trailer park. And I went and parked in a industrial area across the street from this trailer park because it was a gated community. I texted him while he was there, first, and just said, "How's your day?" And he texted back, "Same old, same old," which is really ironic after I found out what I found out. So I pulled into the industrial area across the street, and I sat. And I saw the trunk of the car open and close on the app. I saw his door open and close. So I called him. And I said, "Hey, just wondering, we were supposed to meet for happy hour tonight. Do you want to meet? Where do you want to go? What should we do? Should I come home first? Do we just want to meet after work? What do you want to do?" And he had the hardest time communicating with me. He couldn't think. That was my phone. He had the hardest time communicating with me. He could not think of the name of the bar that we usually go to, the restaurant we usually go to. He was stuttering and stammering. And finally, I said, "I'll just come home. We'll go together." And he said, "Oh, okay, that would be great." And then I watched his car drive down the street in front of where I was parked. And
He passed you.
Well, yeah. My
Wow.
car was back behind something, so he couldn't
Right.
see me.
Okay.
So I sat on that for about a half an hour. Only a half an hour. Now, mind you, I have never talked to him about any of this. None of this.
Yes, nothing. You're just,
Yes.
you and your app are, super sleuths.
You're always talking about micro cheating on your podcast. And my app and I were micro cheating together against him.
Exactly.
So I waited about a half an hour and I texted him and I said, "Hey, I thought I saw you driving down such and such a road. But I don't know why I would have seen you over there. But I waved and waved and waved and you didn't wave back. So someone thinks some crazy woman was waving at them today, but if it wasn't you." And he texted back, "No, that was me. I had gone to such and such a restaurant for breakfast. I didn't want you to know because we've both been trying to lose weight. And so I went over there." I was like, "Okay, no problem." And I let it go.
He didn't say, I can't believe how much you're withholding. It's
I know.
just.
I know. I then drove through the trailer park. I sat there and sat there and sat there. And, oh, this is funny. I didn't, of course, have the gate code. And someone came up behind me and they got out of their car. It was a woman. And she said, "I will let you in as long as you're not some disgruntled girlfriend here to do something to an ex-boyfriend." And I'm like, quite the opposite, actually. So she let me in and I went and drove by this trailer thinking, okay, what was in the trunk? What's going on here? And the woman had her name engraved on a wooden plaque outside of the trailer. So I went back to work and did my investigative work whenever I could in between what I do for a living, and found this woman on LinkedIn and Instagram, found her phone number, paid the $2 for the background check. I wanted to know who this was and why he was there. I found out she was much older, much, much older. I saw a picture. I still at this point didn't think it was an affair because he's a very vain man and a very handsome man. And I thought there's no way he would have slept with someone, this sounds horrible, who looked like that. He would have gone for a much younger woman, absolutely. I don't see this. This had to have been something else. So I then watched the app, get in the car, and go to the restaurant he told me he was at, so he would have a receipt for going there that day.
Wow.
So you had said earlier, we often overtell stories whenever we're trying to cover up something.
Right. Yes.
So I go home, we get in the car to go to happy hour. He picks up the cup from the restaurant he'd been. He goes, "Oh, I hate it when I leave trash in my car. I can't believe I left this cup from this place in my car. I always clean up my car. I can't believe I did that. And I'm like, oh, well, just throw it away when you're done, whatever. And then he said, hey, if your seat is moved, it's because I was taking things out of the back seat, and the seats got moved a little bit. I'm like, no, my seat wasn't moved. Sorry. I said,
Wow.
yeah.
He's just,
And then he, out of the blue, told me why he was on that end of town instead of going home the other direction that would have been much closer from this restaurant. He made up a story that he had gone somewhere to pick something up, and he had just, out of, what do you call that? Just habit, had
right.
turned right instead of left. But he could not stop talking about all the reasons he had done what he had done when he was trying to
Without
come
you
out of the
even
store.
asking.
Right. Yep. He was digging his own grave.
You find a bag in a closet in your house.
I did.
What's in the bag?
He had gone on a trip for work, and I thought, I'm going to find the drugs. I'm going to find proof, and I'm going to get this man help because he cannot keep doing this. This is not okay.
Yep.
So I opened up a cabinet in his office. Yes, I was snooping. And the very first bag, it was right there. I just opened up the cabinet. It was right in front of me. Opened it up, and as vulgar as this sounds, it was a bag of dildos. There was an anal bidet, which I had to look up. I didn't know what that was, and I'm pretty worldly. We're talking 7 to 10 of these little toys. They weren't little, large toys.
Oh, wow.
And a half-used Costco-sized pump of anal lube. And I was shocked.
Okay, that was my question. Take us to the feeling that you had when you opened that bag.
Utter shock. Absolute shock.
Shock, anger, shock, sadness, shock.
Shock, surprise. That was the last thing I expected to find.
Right. You were thinking it was drugs, which is difficult enough.
I was looking in the little side pouches for, little packets of what I've seen on the movies. I did not know that I was going to open this bag and see this. So I went and got my cleaning gloves.
Oh, I can imagine. Right, exactly.
And I started
Can of Lysol.
through this bag, right? I know.
God.
And I started taking pictures because I thought I
Pictures
have
of the dildos.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If anybody ever goes on my phone, they're gonna be like, why do you have these photos? And yeah.
Okay, so you've gotten past shock and surprise. There's gotta be some other emotion. I mean, what is it?
I think it was curiosity is a very simplistic word. I think I really wanted to solve the mystery. Because if he was having an affair, why would he have this bag of anal toys, first of all? And second of all, why wouldn't they be at her house? There was nothing battery operated. There was nothing, any of that. And I know for a fact, well, I don't know for a fact. I thought I knew everything for a fact, but I never would have crossed my mind that he was gay. Still don't believe that. I don't know if they were for his pleasure after I found out what I found out later, or if he was using it on the woman in the trailer park, or I still to this day don't know.
You are consistent because you are admittingly saying you sweep things under the rug, you don't want the confrontation, but they're looking at a bag of dildos, a canister of lubricant, and an anal bidet. What restrains you from picking up the phone and screaming into it? What the hell is going on?
Because if I did that, and there was some by chance reason that he had these, then I was going to be in trouble. I was going to be wrong. And for snooping in his office. That's his office. What were you doing there? What were you looking for? And it would have come back on me. So I've kept all of this in for all of this time because I don't want to be blamed for snooping if I'm wrong. And then again, what if I'm right?
And what do you mean by wrong versus right? Like, in what world could your husband having a bag, I'm not saying one, but a bag of dildos, anal lubricant, and an anal bidet in his office that he's not told you about. Now, people do, you're adults, you do whatever you want. You can have 9 bags, but that he has the bag and is not telling you, what about that could present you as wrong?
That absolutely nothing. The fact that I was snooping is what would be
Take
the
precedent.
trigger, that it wouldn't even matter anymore that I found this. It would be all on me that I was snooping.
Okay. So then what happens?
So then we um we had gone to a bar and we're listening to some live music. And I said, "Oh, this music reminds me of such and such a friend of ours. We haven't seen him forever. We should get in touch with him and get together with it. They were really fun. We should go do that again." And he's like, "Yeah, we should do that." So we get home. Um, I decided I was going to run across the street and pick up some dinner for us. By the time I get back, his mood has completely changed. He's pissed. And I said, "What is going on? What are you so mad about?" And he goes, "I don't want to go out with such and such because all we'll hear about is his hot girlfriend and how much fucking sex they're having. And I don't want to spend the night hearing about how someone else is having sex when I'm not getting any." I said, "Okay, alrighty then. Thank you for sharing. We don't have to call them. Not a problem." And I was very calm at the time.
Mhm.
So he went to
Feel
his
guilty at
area
all a little
house.
bit because you weren't giving him sex or having sex with
Did
him?
I feel guilty?
Mhm.
Um, no,
No. Okay.
no, no. He has always said, I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me. And at that time,
Didn't want to be with him.
I didn't. No, I just didn't know.
Okay.
Things weren't good. We weren't getting what we needed from each other. And I just didn't. Yeah.
Right. You felt justified in not having.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't a weapon. It was just, I don't want to.
Did you feel bad for him when he said that? A little part of you like,
Um, no. And I'm
okay.
going to give away way too much information
Okay.
because the few times that we had tried to have sex,
Mm-hmm.
he had a great difficulty performing. He would be able to start, but then whenever things would get going, he would not be able to finish.
Right. Maintain.
Maintain, yes, without
Mm-hmm.
being vulgar.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, there's something going on here that he doesn't want to be with me either because in his head he can't do this. Whatever. He had told me he masturbated daily, so he could get it up for himself. He just couldn't get it up for me. Um,
Well, he couldn't stay up.
so yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So after about 2 hours, I was pissed at this point. And I went to where he was in the house and I said, 2 weeks ago, when you uh when you said you went to this restaurant, why did you go back 2 hours later?
Mm-mm-mm.
And he just looked at me. And I said, what were you really doing? Why did you feel like you had to go back? And he said, I went to a trailer park and I got a blowjob from an old woman. And I lost my shit. I am not a yeller. I am not an angry person. He said, we were outside. He said, can we take this inside? I'm like, absolutely. He started shutting windows because he knew I was going to blow my top and he didn't want the neighbors to hear. And I screamed for 2 hours. And I couldn't even tell you what I said, but I let it all out, except for the bag of dicks. I never brought up the bag of dicks, which, by the way, a week earlier, the bag of dicks disappeared. No, the bag of dicks disappeared that night. I jumped ahead of my story. I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay. Get your dick straight.
Yeah.
Um,
So I eventually that night I ended up leaving. I went to a friend's house.
wait. No, we can't get to the friend's house. I'm still in the moment
Oh,
that you're screaming. You're clearly upset. What's he responding?
he is responding very calmly. He is answering any question I have, which I'm not really asking a whole lot at that point because I'm just mad. I've got 30 years of marriage anger built up inside of me and I let it loose. I, You
Did
know how
he
they say women pull things from 3 years ago? I pulled up 3 decades of stuff. Yeah.
did he throw the "what were you snooping for" line at you, or did he throw anything back at you? Because you said that's his tendency, is to kind of turn the situation back on you. Did he do that, or was he more contrite? Like, okay, you got me. Hands up.
No, I lied. I lied. I didn't even address it then. I told him that the restaurant he went to sounded like a good idea for lunch, and that a friend and I went over there for lunch, and I saw him at the restaurant going in and out. I never told him that I'd been following. To this day, he does not know I followed the car.
Wow. You don't feel like after all this you can tell him the truth.
I don't, because then it's gonna be all back on me again.
Is that not something you'd like to rectify in your relationship, where you can have an honest, open conversation with your husband and learn together as a couple for him to no longer do that?
I would. I would. Um, and this is not an excuse, because I think that our childhoods, yes, definitely
Yes.
build our adulthood. But through therapy, I've learned that I really never addressed that, and that's still a trigger for me.
Mhm.
So that is something that continues to need to be worked on. And now it's gone to the point, it's been so long that how do I do that without him saying, well, why didn't you tell me at the time? Why didn't you tell me that you've been watching my car do these things? Why didn't you? It would come back to be a me thing and not a him thing. I think it would take away what he did and
Oh,
put it back on
that's
me.
interesting.
Mhm.
Well, do you feel like there's anything unfortunate or worth addressing in the fact that you did not and have not told him that you surveil him?
I sound like a spy. Yeah, there's a lot of unfortunate things. I think we need to build that trust
Yeah,
again, and I'm not being forthcoming, so he wouldn't trust me either.
right.
Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, I think that's the big part of it right there. Yeah, that neither one of us trust each other. He later told me, after I found out a bunch of other stuff, he came to me and said, "Did you know that you can see where my car is on this app?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not." And he's like, "No,
Oh,
I
he's
want you to
not.
follow me. I want you to follow me. I want you to know where I am at all times. I'm so sorry. I want you to know." And I'm like, "I don't want to have to do that, but thank you for telling me."
And how does that make you feel now? To
Now, saying it out loud now makes me feel like shit. That would have been the most opportune time for me to say,
yes,
but I was getting ready for work. I was walking out the door. I
right.
just didn't. Yeah, I just didn't.
So you're screaming, yelling. He confesses, so
Hmm.
that's a weight off of his shoulders. My God, I mean, for him to just blurt that out like that, it must have been a tremendous weight off of his shoulders. Did he reveal other things, or you just said as well, I discovered other things? Do we now, at this point in his mind, have everything out on the table?
No,
Oh.
I it didn't get that far that night. I packed random things and went to a friend's house and spent the night there. And she and I just kind of sat up and talked all night, and went back to the house the next day. And I said, I think I'm ready to have a conversation now without screaming. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have screamed. I'm always yelling at you for that. I'm sorry. Can I ask questions now? And that's when I started asking the questions. And he was very forthcoming with everything. Um, he swears it was a one time thing. He said that he had been watching up to 2 hours of porn a day. And it had gotten to where watching this scene wasn't enough. And so he went to something a little more hardcore. And watching that scene wasn't enough. And it just built, and it became an addiction. And he just wanted to be with someone in person. And while he was watching this porn site, which he'd been doing since 2016, I found out.
8 years of watching 2 hours of porn a day.
Yes. Which could be why he wasn't throwing the laundry in the dryer like I asked him to. But that's That was spicy. So I found that out. I looked for the bag of dildos when I got home that day. The bag had disappeared. So obviously he took it and dumped it the night when I was at my friend's house. It remains to be gone. I don't know where it is. It's never been brought up before or again.
But he doesn't know that you know about it.
He does not know I know about that. And I don't know why I'm holding on to that, but I am.
Let's talk about that for a minute. What's your biggest nightmare in terms of what you could discover about your husband with the bag of dildos?
I was gonna say that he was using them on himself for self-pleasure, but so what? So what? We all receive pleasure different ways. He wasn't. So what? So I don't think that would have been it. I think if I were to find out that he was taking this bag to other women's houses and doing things with this bag of dildos in addition to the blowjobs, which in my heart of hearts, I do believe that's what happened that day, because what else would have been in the trunk of the car?
Mm-hmm.
And why would that have been on his mind when I left that night? Oh, I have to get rid of the bag of dildos. Yeah.
You never think about men, other men.
Him being with men?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Why not?
And I know this was a woman.
Okay. And I'm not saying it is. I've never met your husband. You and I have only spoken. I'm just, I'm curious to know if that's something that you won't even let your mind go there, or you just truly believe it's not possible.
No, my mind has gone there, and I
okay.
really truly believe it's not possible. I've been wrong about a bunch of other things though, but in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would it matter? I mean, that's the big thing.
Right. Exactly. Once he's already done this, would it matter? Yeah.
Would it matter? Yeah. No, that wasn't, you're supposed to answer that question.
Oh. I think
would
that
it matter?
Was answering it. No, it wouldn't matter, because once you cross that line, you cross that line. And I had told him, I think that had you gone to a bar and you sat down and you met someone and you fell in love and this was a thing, I could understand that more than this pop-up ad coming up on your screen that says, I like to give strange men blowjobs, and you sat on it for 24 hours, and then you contacted her via this website, and she said, come over tomorrow at such and such a time. That's 72 hours later. You had 72 hours to really contemplate, I'm going to go meet this random woman, sight unseen. It could have been a 21-year-old. It could have been a whatever. Who knows? And I'm going to go get a blowjob. I don't understand that thinking. I just don't. I can understand falling in love and having a relationship. I can understand a one-night stand with someone that you think is really hot. I don't understand how you went into this woman's house, who I've seen, and I'm sorry, she's not an attractive woman. I don't think I'm super unattractive. But you got it up for her enough for her to give you a blowjob, but you can't have sex with your wife?
Oh, okay. I didn't even consider that.
And I asked him, what happened? And he said, I walked in, I sat down, she asked me how I was, I unzipped my pants, she gave me a compliment about my dick, she gave me a blowjob, I stood up, I zipped up my pants, and I left, and she said, if you want to do this again, let me know.
And it's unpaid. He didn't pay her.
That's what he says. Now, she did cost me money, because I made him go get tested for every STD in the world that there was. He did pay for the website where he found her ad, because that's how he could contact her. It was a paid website. It was about, So but there was apparently no money exchanged
for the service.
For the sex act. Correct.
You go back home, and then what?
We had very many lengthy conversations. Do I stay? Do I go? Do you stay? Do you go? What needs to happen in order for this to work? What's missing? You need to go to therapy. There are a whole lot of I don't understand of all this.
Does he still watch all that porn every day?
He says he has not watched porn since that day.
Oh, cold turkey.
Cold turkey. Mm-hmm. If we're going to make this work, I have to believe him.
Okay.
I
I believe in stuff like that. Like
yeah.
people can change, people can have an epiphany. Yeah,
He
yeah, no.
swears it was a one-time thing. There was never anybody else. I asked him about the neighborhood up in where he was those two
Bike path.
times, the bike path neighborhood. He says he does not remember being up there, that he was up there once. He doesn't remember going up there and not going to Home Depot. He does not remember being in a church parking lot.
Oh, oh wait, now you no,
Yes,
now
right,
that's a little
right,
difficult.
right.
Right.
So I can choose to believe him. We made the conscious effort to stay together. This happened in May. So this is
So
still
recent.
very new, very
Very
new.
recent, very new.
And we're working on it.
Well,
While I still have all these secrets of what
yeah,
I know.
that's what I was going to sort of wrap it up with. He's not here. I don't know him. I I would venture to speculate he has something more to say about the missing minutes and the not remembering. I think it's a little odd that he's not
I
remembering.
agree.
Maybe you don't remember one incident, but two, three in a strange parking lot in a weird neighborhood in a trailer park. Those are very distinct happenings. But you're here and you've been very forthcoming about the fact that you're withholding all of this information because it's not only the information, but what the information represents. My lack of willingness to have a confrontation, my fear about it coming back on me. I mean, it sounds like if you're open with him, you have such an opportunity to create intimacy. Just revealing that alone opens up so many pathways for him to really get to know and understand you.
Or it gives him the right to walk out the door.
And would you rather have an intimate relationship with somebody that knows you or remain this sort of quasi limbo, I trust you, but not really with someone that doesn't really know you?
The first, absolutely the first. Yeah. And that's work that I'm going to have to do on my end to make that happen.
And I'm not giving advice. I'm not a
Yes.
therapist, but
Yeah.
I often hear this. I think I said to you the other day when we spoke offline, I know someone who's my husband's closed. He doesn't tell me personal things. And I know that she has a major family secret that she's not telling him.
Oh,
And I say, well, maybe if you reveal that family secret, you could start opening the door to real intimacy, someone
right.
knowing you in ways that no one else can. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that maybe there's a world in which if you did think about all the pathways you'd open about your childhood, about your sweeping under the rug, about your fear of losing him, about so many things.
You're absolutely right. No, and that's what I love about you and your podcast is you
Oh,
always come up with those deep things that you walk away thinking,
oh, thank you.
wow.
Thank you. Because I just see it as a real opportunity. And it doesn't seem like you want to leave.
No, I don't. No.
Doesn't seem like he wants to leave.
No, we both had the opportunity to do so. Yeah.
How's your son? Does he know
Oh,
any of
he's
the
good.
business?
He knows nothing. No,
Oh,
he
perfect.
knows
Okay, good.
no, no.
Okay.
He doesn't need to know. Yeah.
Oblivious. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your final word? What would you like to say to listeners of Cheating When Love Lies who may be like you?
My big thing is I always hear you at the very end, and we talked about this when we talked, say, if this can help one person, then it was worth the time and the effort. And my husband does not know that I'm doing this today, and I don't know how he would feel if he knew. But
Wait,
if
freeze frame
this
on that. Is there a world in which you tell him now? Listeners know you have
no.
this is not your real name. This is not where you really live. We've disguised your voice, so no one's going to find you.
Mhm.
Like, there's another thing that we're hiding from him. Look me, now I'm all invested. Why are we hiding this from him? Like, we got to tell him.
That this may come out. This actually may come out. Yeah. Yeah. Because to me, it's more therapy. It was
Therapeutic.
therapeutic for me to be able to tell my story. And I was always that woman, like so many people I hear on your podcast say, if this ever happened to me, I would be out the door. I'd kick him on his ass and I would take him for everything he's worth and da 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 da. And no, it wasn't a full-on in-love fledged affair, but it was a blowjob. And that's still, that's, I don't know, it's gross. It's
it's the blowjob. It's what I get from it. And I'm not in a relationship. I would love to have somebody that I can tell everything and they can tell me everything.
Right. I made the choice to stay. And if when I started looking for podcasts about cheating, that was my thing. How many people really stay? And I just want to hear about that son of a bitch. And so many of these podcasts are, and I stayed, and it made my marriage stronger. And I believe wholly if we continue on this path, it will make our marriage stronger. And if it doesn't, then no one's going to be able to say that I didn't give my 125% to this. And him too.
And you also answered the question, would you rather be with someone you have true intimacy with, in sharing, him really knowing you, you really knowing him in ways that no one else in the world can know you, or kind of sweep it under the rug and, fake it? You said no.
Yeah, so that needs to happen as well.
Are you going to come back with him when it happens?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, people come back.
That's a whole other podcast, right?
I did. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be something?
I did. I had a couple. I can't remember. I'll send it to you offline. They came on together. I said to him, "Come on, ask him if he'll come on," and he just confessed and told everything and said, "I love my wife, and how could I do this? I regret." And they're so happy. And
maybe, yeah. Wouldn't that be something?
You've got a huge smile on your face, and I love to end the show in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bianca, for coming on to Cheating When Love Lies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Cheating When Love Lies. Please continue to subscribe, rate, and share.